Nick fucking Gage, the king of this shit, and new GCW champion, was on the Busted Open podcast this week, talking with Dave LaGreca and Thunder Rosa. They were honoring deathmatch wrestling this week, so they had a couple different interviews lined up to talk about the art of deathmatch wrestling, and they had on Nick Gage. And in this particular clip here, we hear Nick Gage talk about the art of deathmatch wrestling. And then he gets into working with Jon Moxley and what it was like having Jon Moxley come in to do deathmatch wrestling compared to other guys that might come in as just a one-off for deathmatch wrestling. Matt Cardona.
What got me into deathmatch wrestling was watching the Cactus Jack and Terry Funk match. As soon as I got in the game, I literally was probably 18, 19 years old, and I went to Japan for 2 years straight. Yeah, and learned my craft and learn how to wrestle deathmatch style.
So when you see somebody like a Jon Moxley, somebody who came from the world of the WWE, obviously Moxley's comes, before WWE and the stuff that he did with Dragon Gate and Evolve and things like that. But when you see like a mainstream superstar step into your world, how do you feel? Like, do you feel like, all right, this guy, I have the respect for this guy because he wants to try it? Or how do you feel about certain people that want to step into the world of deathmatch wrestling from the outside?
So we'll start with Jon. I just love Jon because he was the person when he left, when he came back, same guy. So we were cool, we were friends, and he was just the same guy, man. And he has a beautiful family. I text him all the time, and we talk, and I give love to his family. Now, there's some guys who want to come into deathmatch wrestling and just do one match to try to get over. You know what I mean? Some guys just want to get over because deathmatch could be popular. Oh, I did a deathmatch and get over. I do feel disrespected when some guys just come in for one match, and like Matt Cardona, he comes in for one match and then he's done. That's kind of pussy shit.
Yo, Nick Gage is like the sweetest guy on the planet, isn't he? What a fucking sweetheart. Just sounds like the nicest, most polite guy in the world. And it's great to hear that he's got such a good relationship with Jon Moxley. And just to hear how fondly he talks about Moxley. Mox talks fondly about Gage too. It's really interesting to hear. They got a good bromance going on, it sounds like. But yeah, to hear him to talk about Mox, saying that Mox is the same guy that he was back on the indies when they started out, and doing the same shows together. Mox went on to be this huge WWE superstar, WWE champion, the Shield, multiple WrestleManias, WrestleMania with Brock Lesnar, all these giant things that Moxley's gone on to achieve in his career. Now being basically the world champ for the better part of 3 years now in AEW, he is, I would say unequivocally their top guy through the whole history of their company. To hear that he's still the same guy as he was back in the early indie days, hasn't changed a bit. That's good to hear because a lot of people do change and a lot of things change. And a lot of people would forget the little guys that were in those locker rooms with them. And as far as deathmatch wrestling goes, and guys like Mox coming in to do it, well, Mox was born to be a deathmatch wrestler. You know what I mean? Like, that's his shit to begin with. So that's right up his alley. But then like a Matt Cardona, yeah, he's doing it as a gimmick, but that popped the territory. That put GCW on the radar. And I do think deathmatch wrestling gets a bad rap because at the end of the day, it is still an art. It's a different kind of wrestling. It really is, but wrestling is not defined by just catch as catch can. You know what I mean? It's not drop down, toe hold, leapfrog, get it again, tackle, drop down, leapfrog, fucking hip toss, arm bar, fucking wrist lock, headlock, takeover. That's not what wrestling is defined as. That's what a lot of you would like to think it is, and that's what a lot of you Cornette fans would insist that wrestling is and should only be. But wrestling incorporates toys, let's face it. It's to the point where it's in the video games. You can buy action figure fucking breakaway tables and crutches and steel chairs. It's part of the business now at this point. And fucking Terry Funk was doing this shit long before any of these deathmatch fucks were doing it. We do have Cactus Jack and Terry Funk to thank for Nick Gage, as far as many other people as well. That's another thing Cornette always likes to say, that's the cross that Mick Foley will have to bear the rest of his life. That as brilliant as he is and all the great work that he's done, he himself and maybe Terry Funk as well together are responsible for this whole garbage wrestling fucking run that's been going on ever since they started doing it. And then everybody else started doing it in their backyards and never stopped doing it in their backyards. I like deathmatch wrestling. I think it can be done right. And I think that's been shown by the mainstreamitization. Is that a word? Mainstreamitization of deathmatch wrestling with the Chris Jericho match on AEW Dynamite. And, of course, Matt Cardona doing it as well. David Arquette doing one. Nick Gage he's the common denominator in all of this. Nick Gage is the guy that you go to if you're that guy and you got a big angle or you want to bring in a death match, right? And Nick Gage is your go-to guy. Chris Jericho, I remember Jericho saying that MJF was the one actually who was pretty adamant about bringing in Nick Gage to do that death match with Jericho. So MJF also loyal to his buddies back on the indies as well. He actually worked with Nick Gage. There's a video on YouTube, MJF versus Nick Gage. So Nick Gage is a pretty prominent indie guy, despite, the whole bank addicted drug robber thing. He's pretty well respected on the indies. Thunder Rosa had nothing but kind things to say about him while he was on the show with her. I just think it's an acquired taste, right? Like, it's like, people that say that horror movies aren't real movies. That ain't real movies. That's just torture porn and that's just garbage. It's garbage movies. You know what I mean? That's what all the top, like if you ask a Siskel and Ebert what they thought about any horror movie in the 80s and 90s. It's garbage. It's absolute garbage. It's trash. It's bad for our kids. Come on, man. It's punk rock. It's punk rock. It's alternative. It's horror. It's just, it's that aisle way in the back at the video store with the B-movie tapes. That's what deathmatch wrestling is. But it has its place in professional wrestling, and I have nothing but respect for Nick Gage, and you really should too. Or he's going to come to your house and stab you in the face with a light tube. Oh yeah, thanks for checking out the video. Yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to like it if you liked it. Yeah, and you can check out full episodes each and every Sunday right here on the channel. Oh yeah, dig it.